My thanks also to Jimmy. Thank you to Professor Mayua and Professor Kashimiro. And thank you to all of those who are behind this event today. It's an honor to participate. I hope you're all well. After I joined UNRIST as director in 2015, I only had the privilege of meeting and talking with Thandika 3 or 4 times. One of these, having dinner at Il Chong Yi's house, we talked about, naturally, the state of the world. In the few years before, we'd had a very minor multilateral success on helping to define a new development agenda with contributions from all parts of the world, including from the continent of Africa. But the time was characterized by political tensions, fractures, which were becoming more entrenched. The world of ongoing conflicts in Syria and Yemen, the world of Trump, the world of Brexit. There was an argument that I supported that these tensions would never descend again to a more widespread conflict, a world war, and that it couldn't or wouldn't happen in large part because of the linkages that we'd grown through globalization itself, the economic activity and trade that bound us together. Thandika softly, wisely cautioned against this optimism, well aware of the irrationality and hatred that can sometimes drive people. And his sage advice seems more prescient today as the conflict in Ukraine grows more intense and the stakes higher for all parts of the world. Not that Thandika was a pessimist. Of course, as has been mentioned, he believed very strongly that the potential for economic and social development in all of Africa was real. Moreover, of course, that it should and could be driven not by outsiders, but by African thinkers and leaders. And I think we see that especially from the time that he dedicated not just to the leadership and institution building in Cadastria, but to the generations of cohorts he carefully guided and who became distinguished scholars after him. I do wonder what he thought when he joined the UN and saw it up close. The rules, the procedures, the slow pace of change, often the shallow thinking. I think there was a sense he enjoyed the writing and the thinking much more than the management. Under his tenure, UNRIST in its unique way continued to be unlike any other part of the UN. Thinking, challenging orthodoxy, keeping power and politics at the center of all of its analyses. And he left a legacy of work that helped to redefine the scope and centrality of social policy, and not least the benefits of universality. I think he would be proud that UNRIST continues that tradition with inquiries into the role of elites in sustainable development, inequalities and how they can drive and exacerbate crises, on alternative approaches to economic transformation, on gender equality. That we continue to act as a bridge to scholars the world over to co-produce research in a completely respectful and shared way. And yet, at the same time, I think he'd have also been disappointed that the role of research in the UN is under ever stricter pressure, that the space for critical thinking and for coming up with independent analyses is under threat. He would have been disappointed that his adoptive country, Sweden, has said just last week that it will no longer fund UNRIST from next year after many, many, many years of support. He would have been disappointed that a funding shortfall will probably force UNRIST to close next year in its 60th year. And that once those spaces close, they'll be difficult to get back. But today we focus rightly on Thandika and his legacy, and in particular, the feasibility of the developmental state in Africa. I'm really looking forward to the keynote speech. I'm really looking forward to the panel that will be chaired by my colleague Katja Huya. And I thank you very much for joining us today.